Hi, I'm Laura from Cindy's Quilt Shop, and I'm happy to have you join us for our first month of our second Saturday sampler. Our second Saturday sampler this year is Lori Holt's Farm Girl Vintage. Just to be sure, make sure you have a copy of your book and your background fabric at home, all set, ready to go to begin your blocks. This month we are making 3 blocks. We are doing apron strings, autumn stars, and baby chick. You will find cutting instructions inside the book for each of those blocks. Our first block I'm going to demo today is apron strings, this one here. There is no background fabric used in this block. From the larger blocks in your packet, you're going to take 2 and cut them down to the sizes noted. For this particular block, I add 1/8 of an inch to give myself some wiggle room when I'm sewing. You're going to take 2 of the blocks, put them right sides together, and you can either draw a line on the diagonal, or if you have a clearly perfect angle, or Lori Holt seems so easy on your machine, you can forego this step and follow the guidelines on your machine to create your 1/4 inch seams. Each set of blocks will give you 2 half square triangles. Your triangles are shown like this, sewn on both sides of the line, one on this side and one on that side. With half square triangles, I like to press my seams in one direction first so I can use my block lock ruler to square them up. With my ruler, I'm going to put it on my rotating mat. The seam goes in the guide and I line it up. I'm going to trim around to the sizes needed. Turn it down, slide my ruler to the desired size, and trim again. Your block should look now like this. Now in following Lori's instructions, you want to press your seams open, so you're going to take the seam that you've pressed to the side and press it open. Like so. With your medium-sized blocks, you're going to pick one to go with each half square triangle pair, pick a side, and line up your edges. Have a line drawn down the center, or using your template on your machine, follow your guide. You're going to stitch on that line in a method called stitch and flip, which means you are stitching on the drawn line and you will be flipping your fabric open as shown. Your block should now look like this. With one of the smaller squares in your packet, it's going to go in the bottom corner. Again, line drawn, sew on the line, and stitch it and flip it open. Your blocks should now look like this. You need to make 4 of these blocks. When you put the 4 blocks together, you will have your completed 6.5 inch unfinished apron strings block. Our second block is the autumn star block, and as you can see, I have all my squares pre-cut and in my cute little muffin tin, labeled with my alphabetties. They're great because in her book she gives you lots of letters and which ones you need to sew together. So the first ones we're going to sew together are going to be our brown pieces with our background fabric. You're going to follow the stitch and flip method that I talked about earlier of drawing a line on the diagonal, sewing, trimming off the extra, and flipping the fabric forward. You are going to do one going one direction and one going the other direction. This will help give that chevron look to it. So after you've done your blocks, they should all look like this with the seams pressed open, or like this in the opposite direction. With the blue fabric, you are going to put it on the bottom of the black or the brown square piece and sew in the same direction as you did at the top. Stitch on that diagonal line you've drawn and trim off 1/4 of an inch and press your seams open. Your block should now look like this. You should have a total of 8 blocks that look like this, 4 of this kind and 4 of this kind. You are going to make units of these 2. You're going to put them together, and this is where I like to use my fork pins. The fork pins go in and they grab the seam on each side, like so, and this will help keep your points nice and neat and accurate. And then you're going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam and create 4 sets of units to be used in your star. For the other units in the block, you are going to take your green squares and your background squares. Again, I like to add 1/8 of an inch to give myself some wiggle room. Draw a line down the middle, so 1/4 of an inch on each side to create half square triangles. And then again, using your block log ruler or any other ruler, square up your blocks to the desired size. In the end, you will have each set of those will give you 2 half square triangles, and you need a total of 8. With your half square triangles, you're going to include 2 background triangles to make a 4 patch. Sew these together. These are going to be in the corner. Your blue ones are going to go on the sides, and your D piece is going to be your center square. So our third and final block for this month is the baby chick, right behind me with the cute little heart. This one is comprised of 2 separate components that you're putting together. We're going to work on the heart section of the block, and then we're going to work on the chick section of the block. Or vice versa, whichever you find easier. We'll actually end up starting with the chick, because that's what her directions say. So our first section, you have your background piece with your beak fabric. The beak is going to go in the upper corner. Line drawn on the diagonal, stitch on the line, and you're going to flip it open to look like this. Press your seams open. Next, you're going to do part of the chick body and your background square. Draw a line in the diagonal, stitch, and flip it. So your piece will look like this. Next, you're going to make your wing, and you're going to take your 2 squares, your wing and your body, and you're going to draw that line in the diagonal. Now, if you want to add a little wiggle room, you're welcome to add 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch. This one, you stitch on the line, cut off the extra, and it should finish at the exact desired size. If not, trim it down and make it fit. It'll look like this. With this piece with the seams pressed open, you're going to sew a piece to the top and a piece at the bottom. So you're going to sew your piece on like this and one to the top. Your next piece is the final body piece. You're going to sew your background square to the bottom corner. Again, draw a line, stitch on the line, and flip it open. Then we're going to work on, then you're going to sew your units together. This one is going to get sewn to this one. This piece gets sewn to your wing, and the final body section gets sewn to the wing part. Press seams open, and then you are going to take your large background square. It's going to go in the top corner. Draw a line on the diagonal, stitch on that line, and then you will flip it open and press. Now to make your hearts. You're going to start with your red pieces and your small background squares. Stitch on the diagonal, flip it open and press, and repeat for the other piece. It looks like this. Then you're going to take your next background square, lay it over the top, diagonally going in the opposite direction, stitch, and flip it open. Your pieces should look like this. Now, if you have a little bit of extra lying around the top like I do, you're going to square up your blocks to the desired size they need to be. When you finish with that, you're going to take your larger background pieces and stitch and flip on the bottom. Remember, one goes one direction and one will go the other direction. If not, you won't have a heart. So now with your two pieces of the heart, you're going to fold them in half and stitch together. Stitch your heart block, attach it to your other background piece, and press your seams open. You're going to take your heart piece and stitch to the baby chick body, as shown in the picture. Press your seams open, and then you will draw the lines for your embroidery for your eye and your legs. You can either choose to do your embroidery by hand, or you can do a tight zigzag on your machine. We look forward to seeing your finished blocks on the second Saturday in October, Saturday, October 10th at 9 a.m. or the third Tuesday, October 20th at 6:30 p.m. See you there!